Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. Today we're going to talk about the brand new for 2019 American Ultra Telecaster. What is the Ultra series, you're asking? Well, it's replacing the old American Elite series that came out in 2016. You can check out this video right here if you're interested in learning about the whole series, but for today we're going to talk strictly Telecasters. So what exactly is new between the old American Elite and the Ultra Tele? First off, you have a thinner modern D neck profile shape, whereas the old Elites, they started as a modern C and then moved into the modern D shape. So the necks will feel a little bit different, and your fretboard radius is also slightly different. The new series is going to be a little bit flatter feeling because it starts at a 10-inch radius and then moves to a flatter 14 in the soloing area. It's not a huge change though, because the old one started at 9.5 and moved to 14, so it's just a slight half-inch radius difference here. But something else you'll notice is the return of rosewood. So if you wanted a dark fretboard in the old Elite series, you actually had to get ebony, which I think ebony is kind of a cool option, but now that rosewood's back on the table due to the sights tree being revised, Fender decided to bring that back. They've also released the next generation of noiseless pickups here. I believe this is Generation 5 because they called the old ones Generation 4, but they're just calling these the Ultra Noiseless. Likely named after the series that they're doing here, Ultra. So those were all small changes, but what are the biggest ones? You've got the sculpted neck heel right here. You still have this extra little cutaway right here, that way it's a lot easier to play in the upper registers, and that was the same in the Elite series, but what they've done now is added this extra little sculpting cutaway right here. I mean, it's super noticeable right there, but it's just kind of like a swoop right here, and it just kind of gets out of the way of your hand. I think that is the biggest feature as to why somebody would want to buy this. But the other big one is they ditched that whole truss rod wheel at the end of the fretboard. People seem to like the way that those adjusted, but they just kind of looked a little bit goofy. So now you have a traditional looking Telecaster and you have truss rod axes at the front of the headstock. And that's just a standard biflex truss rod. Also notice that the headstocks have a vintage tint to them and they've returned the skunk stripe to the back of the neck. And that's what makes them worth $200 more than the old series. So these Telecasters range from $18.99 to $19.99. That's up from the old $16.99 to $17.99 prices. And they're offered in 7 colors with 8 different variations. You have the alder bodies that are offered in Arctic Pearl, Cobra Blue, Mocha Burst, Ultra Burst, and this one, Texas Tea. It's kind of dark, but when you get it in the light, it turns like a nice oil color. It's kind of cool. But if you prefer to have an ash body, it's a $100 upcharge, but you get the transparent Plasma Red Burst or Butterscotch Blonde. So to the best of my knowledge, those are the biggest differences between the two series. Basically, it comes down to if you prefer a rosewood or ebony fretboard, if you like this additional cutaway because you're doing lots of soloing, or if you just happen to like these new finish options. But now that we have the differences out of the way, what are my first impressions of this guitar? Opening the case, picking it up, the first thing I noticed was that neck. It is a rather rounded but thin feeling neck. It instantly drew me in because it's like, that's a really unique neck profile shape to this. I find it comfortable, especially if you're doing a lot of soloing. And if you watch my unboxing episode for all the Ultras that I bought to review, I was a little bit hard on this new cutaway just because I picked it up, I felt it, I thought the neck plate actually felt a little bit sharp. But once I actually sat down with this thing in playing position, stood up with it on a strap, they definitely made an improvement here. This would be a reason why you would want this guitar. It does make it a little bit more comfortable to play in the higher registers, more so than just cutting off this little corner. It basically just gets everything out of your way. It's a welcome new addition. And the rest of my first impressions are pretty much cosmetic. This Texas Tea finish is a knockout. It is perfect in my eyes. It's that dark gold black hue. Stock photos really do not do these things justice. Definitely take a look at a few videos of these things and I think you'll fall in love with this finish too. But next you'll notice this anodized silver pickguard here. Not all of the finishes are going to have the anodized guard. It kind of depends which one you choose. But the Texas Tele does come with that, and it's beautiful. And the reason why it's beautiful is it matches the crisp white binding pretty well. I almost wish they would have went with like a silver colored binding, though, to get that match 100% perfect. but it's just such a beautiful complement there. And once again, the finish matches the fretboard. It's just such an awesome blend of colors. This Telecaster really does stand out. Something else that also works pretty nice is you have the ultra satin finish on the back, so it's nice and smooth, not sticky, but on the headstock they still gave it the traditional full gloss, so you know it's nice and shiny right there. But you notice they actually covered over the fretboard a little bit right there, so that makes that shiny and sparkly. I almost wish they just would have lacquered over the fretboard. That might be an unpopular opinion, but how cool would that be if this looked like a maple fretboard with a finish over it? You don't find many guitars like that, but they do exist. And one last thing I want to mention is this guitar reminds me of a $25,000 to $30,000 instrument that Fender recently announced. Game of Thrones House Stark Tele. Do you guys see the similarities here? You've got the pickguard, you just have to imagine the beast that was on it. Sure, you don't have the wood grain on the front, but you have that dark color on the sides. I feel like with enough slight tweaking and modifications, you could turn this $2,000 guitar to look very similar to the House Stark Tele if you're into that. So I think that's why I had to subconsciously buy this guitar and was immediately attracted to it. But let's go ahead and throw this one on the workbench and take a look at its individual parts and specs in depth. All right, so we found some cool things. We found some not so cool things, but we'll go over the good and the bad here. So underneath the pickguard, it is routed for a humbucker in the neck, and you could add a single coil pickup in the middle if you really wanted to. Looks like at one point in time there was a sticker or identifying mark right here for the factory. So you can see through to the alder body on this one, and you've got your little barcode that you could send into Fender to verify what the body is. And then it's just a little route right there that moves into the body. Then as far as the pickguard goes itself, there's this strange little area right there that's different than the rest of the pickguard. It feels ever so slightly thicker in that area, so I'm not sure if that has like a shielding purpose or something, but it's there. But look at this pickup. Isn't this a novel idea? To actually say what it is right there on the base plate. And on the outside there, the cover also reads Fender Noiseless. Which I'll be honest, I think it looks cool when there's a cover right there. That looks modern, but I hate it that they put it on the black uncovered one. I don't like the Fender and Noiseless branding when you can see it, when it's in your face. I would rather it be more hidden like that. So maybe they could have done like a dark gray color or something. This bridge setup was a pain in the butt to remove. So what they've got going on here, maybe this is just how most Teles are, not the ones that I've torn apart, but these two screw holes are secured by these two tiny little screws right here. But the three main anchoring ones are right by the saddles. So this one you can get to without removing it. This one you can wang jangle your way to get it out without removing it, but unfortunately I didn't see that middle one. I had to remove one of the saddles, so I'll have to re-intonate this. But I did it for you guys. What's under here? Nothing too much, just a standard bridge Tele route right there. And you can see it's the Ultra Tele bridge pickup with that same blue base plate. But we'll take a quick look around the side. It looks like it's some sort of a stacked pickup. I haven't seen too many Fender Telecaster bridge pickups to compare that to. But something I can tell you is about these saddles. They're not actually like chrome or anything. They're chrome plated, but on the inside they're actually brass because apparently a lot of people like the sound of brass saddles. So that's kind of a hidden feature. Speaking of hidden features, there's a bunch going on with this control layout that I didn't exactly realize. This is still just a traditional three-way toggle switch right here, but you don't have that pilgrim hat topper. It's like a Devo hat topper, but it just has that one slash down the center, so there's only one way to put that thing on. I'm guessing that makes it a little bit easier to move this out of the bridge position. But the master volume has an S1 switch built into this knurled knob. Basically, you push this down to activate it. What the S1 switch is doing in this situation, though, in the middle position only, it switches it between series and parallel. So you kind of go from your traditional quacky, thin sound to kind of a more full, almost humbucker-like, not quite, but that's a good way to visualize it. But the tone pot also has something special going on here. Listen to it. Hear how it clicks? This is one of Fender's no-load tone pots. So when you have it all the way on, it's actually not even in the circuit, so there's no load on your signal. But if you turn it down, then it's back in the system and you can roll your tone down to whatever desired tone that you want. But let's see what all that looks like. It's kind of a jumbled mess of wires in here. So you've got your three-way toggle switch there, your S1 switch is always massive, and then I thought for sure the no-load tone pot would be a little bit more substantial than that, but it just looks like a regular thing. But inside here, that leads to your output jack on the side. It looks like your grounding tab is in there, and nothing too special. As far as pickup readings go within the circuit, neck pickup reads 10.59 k ohms. Center position, you get a 5.1. Then just the bridge, you get 9.46. And now for the one bad thing I found. You can see right there the finish has been chipped when they installed the neck. It's covered over by the pick guard, so they probably thought, nobody's gonna care, but that's kind of a oopsie, and I feel a little bit cheated. But we'll take a nice good look at this finish on this thing. This really shows you how it kind of turns that oil color that everybody's been talking about. And I love that this finish is metallic, but not in-your-face metallic like some of the other ones in this series. So I think it works well in most settings right here. But this is just a fantastic looking Telecaster. Moving up the neck here, it is a 22 fret neck, so you've got that little bit of a ledge for that 22nd fret, but you could put a 21 fret neck on it if you wanted to, but it is a rosewood fretboard, once again with that 10 to 14 inch radius, and the frets are in good shape. The only thing I really noticed on this one is the fretboard appears to be kind of scratched up here by the first fret. Now you could say, oh, I did that when I did the steel wool treatment, but you know, I did that for every single fret, and that's the only one you really see it on. You see it kind of right here on the middle of the board, but as far as tooling marks go, that's very minor, so I'm not too worried about it. So far we got a small chip in the finish on a new guitar and a little bit of tooling marks. That's not too much to complain about. The nut is bone, and I put a little bit of graphite in there just to help with tuning stability if I needed it. And we've got the low profile locking Fender tuners here. Those are supposed to help increase your break angle across the nut, so it keeps them in place and everything. And you do have the one string tree right here with, once again, truss rod access right there. And apparently something new for this is a gold Fender logo. Apparently the old Elites were silver. Somebody please verify that for me though, because I cannot find a for sure picture of them actually being silver. I mean, it's kind of even hard to tell this one's gold in person. Neck measurements, I get 1.67 inches at the nut. That increases to 2.02 at the 12th. First fret neck depth, 0.82. And by the 12th, here you can see why it's so thin, 0.88. And they're calling that, once again, the modern D neck profile shape. And they're going for that 25.5 inch scale length. Moving on to the back of the body here, nothing too crazy going on here. You can see where the strings go through the body right there. And again, that comfort carve right here, that's different from a regular Telecaster. But then you have this new swoop. And now when you have the neck and the neck plate off of it, you can kind of see what they've done here. The reflection of the finish kind of helps show it too. There's just this swoop right in here that just kind of dips down. Here's another good angle of seeing that. But right here, they sculpted out even more. That way your hand can kind of have a place to rest if you're really going up to those upper fret registers. But here's what the neck plate looks like. It just says Fender American Ultra. Nothing too special on the back. It does not appear that we have any type of micro tilt on these either. But stock from the factory, you do get Schaller strap lock buttons, and they do include the parts for your straps inside the case. Also notice, just in case you missed it, it is a bound Telecaster. That's not something that's normally done. So that's another premium feature over like a regular Telecaster. And you've got your output jack right here recessed into the side. I didn't find anything too special within the neck cavity right here though. It just looks like SZ, there's a P, a few other light pencil marks, but no date stamps or anything. But you can see where the binding starts and ends right there. Up here as well. But the neck does have a little bit more going on. You have a barcode on here that says Neck Ultra Tele. And it's got a few numbers right there in that little cavity that they drilled. And thankfully, there is a little date stamp at the bottom of the neck. It looks like it says September 18th. You can see right there where that anodized pickguard kind of scratched away some of the original finish on the neck. And just something I want to make a little comment on here, as far as the neck is set into the body, this screw just barely goes into the neck, whereas those bottom two are like supporting all of the weight. Then this one just kind of goes, moderately into it. It's just kind of interesting to see which screws were holding the neck in a more secure manner. But that neck pocket is super tight. Like I had to slowly wiggle this thing out just to get it out and not break anything. So we're all good now. It's all strung back up and it's looking great. But we'll still continue up the neck here. Again, you've got that nice vintage tint to it, which I think looks much better than just the plain maple, and that vintage looking skunk stripe here for your truss rod inserting. And here's what the back of those locking tuners look like. So basically, if you've never had a locking tuner before, you turn these little wheels and that clamps down the string. That takes the place of all the windings around the tuning pegs. So you just put it in, pull it taut, and then you cut it off, and then it just locks the string in place. So it's not necessarily that locking tuners make tuning stability better, it just makes it easier to get them wrapped around properly. And then you don't have to worry about your strings not being properly wound and all that other stuff. Plus it makes string changes a lot quicker, that's the other benefit to them. And your serial number for these is right on the back of the headstock. This one's 19075308, made in USA, Corona, California. This Texas T weighs 7 pounds, 10.1 ounces. Let's go ahead, plug it in, and walk you through the tones. Alright, let's go ahead and run through our tones here, starting with the bridge pickup. So your neck pickup is that traditional kind of juicy sound. The middle position then kind of gets you the spankiness. Then the S1 switch just kind of beefs it up. Then bridge pickup, just kind of what you expect. The thing that's really standing out to me is this is a very bright sounding guitar. I mean, in all positions. So I find if you roll the tone down, I would say like to 7 or 8, you kind of get closer to that traditional sound for it. So for example, neck pickup with tone on 10. Roll it back a little bit to 7. It gets a much sweeter, more mellow tone that you might want. So that's a really useful trick that I find makes these guitars, a little bit more traditional as well as being able to be super bright. But I'm digging the tones so far, so let's go ahead and do a few more comparisons here. So now that we know everything about this guitar, what are my final thoughts on this thing? Did it really change the way I play, the way Fender says it would? No, not really. It is a really, really nice Telecaster, though, with tons of modern appointments. It's rather bright sounding, but I mean, if you're having a Telecaster, that's kind of what you want anyways. As I was telling you, just roll the tone down a little bit and you can definitely take that brightness off. I've got to say, though, I love the S1 switch on this. Listening back to the recording and editing all this, man, that just gets so beefy and chunky. I'm definitely a fan of that. And as far as quality control goes, you know, it was just those two tiny little defects, a small paint chip. It's completely hidden underneath the pickguard, so I mean, how can you really quality inspect that? That's more somebody who's building the guitar that needs to catch stuff like that, and a few small fret file marks. I mean, as far as new guitars go, I would definitely say this is passable and acceptable. But one small thing that I wish they would have done is, you see how you got this big belly carve back here now? That causes the guitar to sit more at an angle to you, so I find that this hard edge is even more uncomfortable to play now. I wish they would have just done a slight arm contour on this model as well to make it even more perfect. As far as the neck contour right here, perfect, excellent job. It's a welcome addition in my eyes. So while no, it might not be anything revolutionary, it is a fantastic Telecaster. So if you dig the looks of it and you dig the tones, I definitely suggest checking one out. But now that my review is done of this guitar, it is up for trade or sale. You can check out the link in the description. That will take you to the Reverb for sale page, or you can email me at tradetrogly@gmail.com. I'm interested in, you know, other limited edition Fenders, just, you know, cool stuff for the channel, things like that. But let's go ahead and run over the condition real quick if you are interested. I mean, I bought this guitar brand new. There's not too much wrong with it. Just those few small tooling marks as we saw earlier. The frets, they're medium jumbos. I polished them up. Honestly, they didn't really need them, but it's just something I do to every guitar that I buy and sell. I don't believe I caused any nicks or dings on this finish, nor did I see any. I mean, you're gonna have some light scratches from me playing it and some fingerprint marks, but it'd still be similar to like a floor demo model. Honestly, probably even better than that, depending on what store you buy from, right? Back of the neck, also super clean. I didn't cause any nicks or dings back here when I took it off, and it's back on perfectly. This one has a pretty good setup. I mean, you're still going to want to get a professional setup to your own taste, maybe dial in the intonation a little bit more. I mean, I'm not saying it's crazy bad right now or anything, but, you know, people have different expectations when it comes to a brand new guitar, so keep $50 in mind, as well as a good setup guy. And thankfully, no neck pocket cracks or anything like that. Sometimes that'll happen on these Fender guitars. But, you know, pretty clean guitar. Minimal wear, if any at all, is the best way to describe this one. But I had somebody wondering what Texas T looks like under Blacklight. Unfortunately, it's nothing too exciting here. Nothing really glows on this guitar. It's brand new, except for the neck. You know, that satin finish. It must be whatever satin finish they use, because those ones always tend to glow. Or maybe it's just the maple coloring of the neck. I'm not sure. Poly finishes confuse me when it comes to the Blacklight test. If you buy one of these new, this is the deluxe hard shell case you get. I mean, it's a pretty nice case. It's got the Fender branding right here, and you have 3 TSA style latches. You open them by pressing this little button, and then they release. You can choose to lock that one if you wish. I mean, it's a pretty nice case, and you got a very good handle. It'll have these hang tags on it, and inside the case here, you can see it would fit a Stratocaster or a Telecaster, and this is all of the different case candy. You get a truss rod tool, an action adjustment wrench, as well as the Schaller strap buttons, a Fender manual here, an extra set of 9-gauge strings, the Fender sticker, the truss rod wrench. And what I thought was really cool was this, the American Ultra sticker. This usually goes on the pickguard, but I'm guessing since this one has the anodized metal one, they decided, yeah, we'll just include it in the case as extra case candy. And all of that sleeps within this little Fender pouch. Now, if you're interested in this, I'm sorry, I'm keeping the truss rod wrench and I'm keeping the strings because I need those, but I will give you all the other case candy, as well as the Schaller strap buttons. I guess there's a little bit of extra case candy in here. You get the online lessons tag, the Fender tag that has the serial number on it, and they also give you this nice little diagram that explains the whole S1 switching in case you're confused about what it does.
You've got case keys, inspection certificate thing here, silica packets galore, and if you're curious what these things are, they originally were on the pickups, but I put them in here just because, I don't know, collectors are weird. So if you think you might be interested in being the next owner of this 2019 Texas T Fender Ultra Telecaster, you can check out that link in the description, which will take you to the Reverb for sale page. Thank you, Troglodytes, for tuning in today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.